Welcome back to another triathlon podcast brought to you by Mana Apparel. This weekend, there was absolutely no shortage of racing, and we're going to break down some of the results this week because there were some incredible performances across the board from WTCS up to Ironman, and we will chat about all of it. But first, I'm joined as always by Josh, and we're going to jump into what our trainings looked like this last little while. Josh, how are you doing? What have you been up to?
I'm good. Had a little scare after my race on Sunday, but it was a busy weekend. Thursday had my daughter's prom, and then drove down to New York City. Worked from New York on Friday. Hopped into a Peloton run class. I had a 30-minute run on my schedule, and got in my 4 miles on the treadmill with a great class. And it was my 800th Peloton run, so it was really cool experience with one of the instructors I really like on the bike, and he's now a tread instructor as well. So I got to run with who we call AT, Alex Toussaint, and see a whole bunch of friends in the Peloton world. And then I hopped up to the Upper East Side and found this place called Asphalt Greens that they have all over the city, and it's like this mega sports complex. And inside of it is this aquatic center with like 15 lanes of 25-yard pools in the middle of New York City. So one of the ladies I coach joined me, and we got in about 45 to an hour of swimming in the middle of the day on Friday, and then had some food, which was always good, which we've been talking about, lots of food. And my wife was running the Brooklyn Half Marathon, so we were getting ready for that on Saturday. I got my long run in along the West Side Highway, along the Hudson River, and got that done early Saturday morning, and then went and joined her and did a little extra running, trying to catch her on the course due to traffic situations getting over to Brooklyn. But was able to catch her at the end, and some friends finishing the race. We probably had like 30, 40 friends running the Brooklyn half. But it was humid. It was like 95% humidity. Like even my run, I made sure I had some bottles with me. My Nerd Belt came in very handy for sure. And there were people dropping left and right. And lo and behold, we found out some guy, 31 years old, in good shape, passed away and had a cardiac arrest at like mile 8. So it was a tough day for a lot of people. I had some friends that set some PRs, but it was just one of those days where, like, if you just weren't hydrated correctly or feeling, it was a day that you probably should take it a little easier. So, but it was my first time to Coney Island, and wow, that place is crazy and pretty fun to be around that atmosphere. And had my Nathan's hot dog for the first time, like true Nathan's hot dog, right from the Nathan's hot dog place after waiting in line forever. And then we got back in the car, drove home, and then I had a race at first thing Sunday morning and had my sprint triathlon after doing about 15, 16 miles on Saturday.
Just a little warm up. Yeah. Got to get the legs turning over for that stretch.
Yeah, just like your post. If everyone hasn't read it, go to Triathlete Mag and read Jenna's post on how to handle the day before a race. I did not follow the guidelines. But we were training through a C race, which is what this was. So a little different than what her article is talking about, A races. And this was about activating and seeing how I could go at the higher speeds, because everything's been more about half marathon, or 70.3 type distance. So sprint distance, my third year in a row doing this race. And again, awesome community, more and more people saying, hey, Josh, and just, hey, love the podcast. And it's just kind of neat to be around that. And we had 3 of us wearing the bright Mana kits at a local Massachusetts race, which was really neat. And I actually even saw the kid who won the duathlon was wearing his own custom Mana kit as well, which was really neat. And didn't have the greatest swim. I did slot myself up early in my green cap field, which was like 35 to 49, I think, age group, and got in early. Was having a good swim, and then started catching some people who were then going diagonally and got dunked pretty good. So I had to roll over, backstroke a little bit just to catch my breath, and then got going. I came out pretty much similar to what I did last year, but had a much quicker, felt way better, and had a lot more energy left in me. So not a very fast T1, unfortunately, but got on the bike and I just felt great once I got on the bike and actually clipped in. But once I got on the bike, I was feeling good. It's just one of those races where the roads aren't actually closed and the duathlon had already started. So I'm catching all of the slower duathlon traffic. The only swimmers that had gone before me were the elite and younger kids. So most of that was not people I was really having to deal with. But when you're catching slower duathletes, it gets a little rough. And then there's cars that, like, I literally was going between a car and a biker with maybe 5 feet of shoulder at 25, 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, especially when the other cyclist is moving a lot slower, then it's just like,
And you don't know what they're going to do, and there's not much room. And I can't go to the left of the car because the other side of the street's wide open and no control, and those cars don't even care because they're not really affecting the course. But I had a goal in mind, and I knew I wanted to push a decent amount of watts. Those 3x10s, 3x12s, and now this week 3x15s are really setting the threshold level of where I can go race day. And in a 30-minute ride, 10-mile ride, we had an idea of where I could be, and I was able to. I think my normalized was 261, so by far the highest watts I've been able to push. Probably would have been higher if I had a nice little 70.3 open road, and I still came home 2 or 3 minutes faster than last year. I think on my computer I was just under 30 minutes, so that was kind of the goal this year. And then got off on the run and had a great run. Finished strong and didn't pose for any pictures. Didn't do any. I was just like I was in the whole goal was just be in the Hurt Locker and really push it and got as close to red line as I could and finished with like a 4-minute PR on the day and ended up finding out later that it was good enough for second place in my age group. And then I did the math. I was like, wait, top 2 in the age group actually qualifies me for USAT, even though it wasn't the state championship, which I'm doing in a few weeks. So now I can go to Milwaukee if I want to in the sprint or the Olympic distance. But yeah, my first individual podium in a triathlon, and it was really good, but I was less than a minute off, and that could have easily been cut down in transition alone. So unfortunately, no top step, but it was a great day, especially off of tired legs. But the problem was when I finished, almost immediately, it was very weird. Almost immediately, I had a limp, and my right foot was just kind of like dragging along, and I knew something wasn't right. So took care of that the rest of the day. I was supposed to do a long ride. We kicked that off. Didn't do that. And then it felt a little better the next day, but it was starting to bruise, and that started to bring some concern. So I did Advil. I still did a short 45-minute ride, 40-minute ride on my Peloton bike, but easy aerobic. And I swam on Monday. And then last night I went to the urgent care and got an X-ray, and there's no fracture or hairline or anything like that. Stress fracture showing in the X-ray. So I think an MRI might show something different, but at this point it's just kind of like it's getting better, and I've got a boot at home anyway, so I'll just wear a boot for a few days and get my workouts in carefully. We had already planned on changing any runs to elliptical, so we're going to stick to that plan for a week or so and go from there. But I think I got lucky, but a lot of that is due to the fact that I was in pretty damn good shape and aerobic wise was there. So the overuse injury is what I'm guessing this probably is not as impactful as it could have been.
Yeah, hopefully it clears up there, and that's always the best call. Just take a few days easy, let the inflammation come down, see how it all comes out. Like, yeah, I was just dealing with a foot issue the other week there where it was like walking around was painful for like 5 days, and then it just went away. So
it's really weird.
It sounds like you are.
Yeah, and there wasn't much swelling either, too, which was also it was just weird because it almost looked like somebody took a hammer to my foot, like just
Yeah.
with the bruising and it's really right there on the fifth metatarsal, the one you hear about and worry about most. So I think I got lucky, and I'm excited because I've got some big races, and still the whole thing is we're far enough away from Chicago, and now that state championship June race isn't as important now that I've already slotted in for Milwaukee if I wanted to go there in August. So yeah, everything's just kind of building towards Chicago and running 6:47 per mile or whatever the heck I have to do at that point. It was like I could barely do that in a 5K sprint triathlon, but we'll do it for 26.2 later this year.
After a long run and a swim and a bike.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Congratulations on the podium. That's always a big step, kind of getting up there. And you've just seen PR after PR this year, and that speaks to that consistent training over the last few years, really. But this year, you've definitely stepped it up and seeing the benefits, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun being around the same people too in these local races. Like we talk about, like going to local races. Like everyone's got to hop into one or two a year. Like it's just so cool to go and see your local community get after it. And we talk about the Ironmans and we talk about the T100 and the challenge races, but these local races just have that different feel. And I brought a whole cooler of athletic brewing, and that was like gone immediately after the race. People loved it, and I'm now known as the athletic brewing guy at this race. And saw a bunch of friends that I get to see at most of these local races. And there was one of the other Mana guys, Alex. He finished second, but he actually finished first because one of the guys in his age group took was third overall. So Alex finished first. So we had two Mana podiums, and my other friend finished second in her age group, and then my boy Matty Mac finished second too. So it was like literally all within like a half hour of each other. It was like a pretty cool experience.
Podiums all around. And that's the fun part about the Mana team now, especially this year. It's so much bigger. And with around 500 members, you can show up to basically any Ironman or 70.3, and there's a team member on there, which makes it a lot of fun. And we've got a lot of group chats going on. So if you're going to a specific race, there's probably a WhatsApp group chat coordinating and getting together there, which is fun.
Which we knew that Alex was going to be there because of the WhatsApp chat that we have for the Northeast community. And one of my athletes, Noah, was also racing, and it was the first time the two of us got to race together at the same distance, which was really neat. And he had a good day. So shout out to Noah and his first race as a member of Team Mana. So, and my wife loved it because the kits are so easy to see.
That definitely makes it easier when you're spectating.
Yeah.
And if you are interested in checking out the team, we do have a social membership that is open that gives you access to all of the group chats and the sponsor discounts and everything. Just head over to monaapparel.com and the community tab, and you can apply to join the team there. So yeah, go check it out. It's been a lot of fun just seeing familiar faces everywhere, especially in a sport where everyone in your everyday life kind of thinks you're a little bit insane. And here you can go say you did a 5-hour ride and people are like, cool.
Yeah, it's a great community, and it's really neat to start to think about some of the things being done in the endurance world and triathlon world. So now is a great time to get into it because a lot of these things you see at like marathons and activations, those are all things that are going to start happening in the triathlon world too at local races, and you just get into a bigger community and you'll know what's going on and where to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, how about I don't know. Are you done riding yet?
Did a little bit of bike riding this weekend. Just a little bit. Yeah, I had a blast this weekend. This become a kind of a tradition. So I'm up in Canada, and May long always comes this time of year. And this year it kind of snuck up on me. So usually May long weekend, the family will go camping. So I'm home alone and just do a big training camp. I'll either do it at home or head over to somewhere like Penticton and get in some big miles. But yeah, it kind of snuck up on me. So I told my coach on like Tuesday, I'm like, hey, by the way, it's that 4-day weekend. This weekend, can we go put in some big training? And he delivered. We'll say that this has definitely been the biggest training week and the biggest 4 days of training I've ever done before. And it was just so much fun in the way it went. It just, to have that time and space is a rare opportunity where all I had to do for 4 days was eat, sleep, train. There was nothing else. It was a long weekend. I didn't open my laptop, didn't do any work, didn't have to take care of anyone else, just focus on the training. And yeah, it ended up being a pretty epic training weekend. And when I do stuff like this, I'm in kind of constant contact with my coach. He writes out the training a day to 2 days in advance, just depending on how I'm feeling, because when you start to push it more, you kind of have to be a little bit more on top of it, which I appreciate. But it ended up being, the first day was I think it was a 4K swim and a 5 hour bike ride. And then the next day was a 5 mile run and a 5 hour bike ride. And shockingly, day 3 was a 5 hour bike ride and a 7 mile run. And then the last day was just a repeat of the third day, another 5 hour bike ride and a 7 mile run. So
Yeah, you're still sneaking in the runs in like the 7:45, 7:50. I mean, like, oh gosh, she dropped below 8 today.
yeah, it was a lot of fun kind of looking at that from the outside. And sometimes this is the good reason to have a coach, is a lot of the time he has to hold me back. But weekends like this, I would have never programmed that for myself. And the crazy thing was it all felt good. And one of the big things I think that people underestimate if you are going to increase volume like that is just the amount of calories you need to get through it. Like that was something that would make or break this. Like I'm, 5'6", 125 pounds. I was eating between 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day just to make sure I could do the training, feel good in the training, recover, and back it up the next day in there. So eating became like a part-time job this weekend, almost as much as the training. And that was a combination.
Bike run, nutrition for sure.
Totally. Yeah. And it was definitely that 80-20 thing where 80% of it trying to eat good foods and stuff. But I also had a massive bag of like caramel chocolates and some gummies and stuff, because at some point you just want sugar.
Yeah.
You're doing that kind of training.
And when you're riding that long too, and for that many consecutive days, it's like, all right, we got to change up the routine here. Another Morton gel is not going to really cut it.
Yeah. And especially all of this was so long and aerobic. When I do have stuff like that, I try to incorporate more protein on the ride.
Yeah.
So I had a few like protein bars during it and stuff, because that'll just help with some of that muscle recovery in between. And like you said, there are only so many gels and sports drinks you can take over that much volume over those days.
Especially with the biking too, right? On the biking, the stomach can typically handle a little bit more of regular food.
Yeah, I always tend to go a little bit more kind of like protein or real foods at the beginning of the ride, knowing I have a run afterwards. Then I'll kind of transition to the gels or the like Morton sports drink kind of thing near the end of it, just to make sure my stomach is happy to go at the end.
Nice. So how are you feeling coming out of that? Are you feeling like the body has transformed, changed, like you're ready to go into this next block as you get ready for Kona later in the year?
Yeah. So you know what? This was so good, not only from a physical perspective, obviously I'll get a big fitness gain from this, but it was more the mental side of it, just kind of resetting in my head what I think I'm capable of, because all of the bike rides were within like 10, 15 watts of my Ironman watts. Nice. And I did it 4 days in a row. And the difference between my average power on the first day versus the last day was 7 watts. So it's like, okay, this is something that is very sustainable. Maybe I need to start to push this a little bit more, because if I can do 20 hours of it in 4 days, I can probably push a little bit more during an Ironman.
Absolutely. No, because now like, look, I was able to sustain this and I barely drifted. Yeah. And on fresh legs, I just put myself at a different watt range for race day.
Yeah, so it ended up being, because this was kind of tacked on last minute, it ended up being something like a 32-hour training week, which I think my biggest ever before this was like once or twice I've done 25 hours. But yeah, just shocking how good I felt. Like I kept waking up excited to get after it. And I absolutely credit so much of that to, one, the aerobic foundation. I've been doing this for a long time, but two, like I said, just eating enough makes so much difference. And I think that why we're seeing so many of these big performances is, yeah, there's technology, there's shoes, there's bikes and stuff, but that whole fueling point of it really makes such a massive difference when you can bounce back, keep going, keep pushing, keep putting in more volume and time, and just not breaking down with those, RED-S issues or stress fractures or any problems there. And so it was pretty cool to see what the body is actually capable of. But yeah, feeling good and Ready to get back into it.
Nice. I have this weekend I have my first Super Tri work trip. We've got our by Super Tri Captex Triathlon Festival down in Austin, Texas. So I'll be working, training, trying to figure all that out while traveling. But
And
it's a
he is always.
really cool event on Monday on actual Memorial Day here in the States. And it's going to be like an all day festival of triathlon with an expo on Sunday. And we're going to do some activations with some of the local tri clubs down there. And Athletic Brewing sponsoring some of the events and shakeout runs and stuff too. So it's going to be really neat to be part of that. And that's kind of like what we talked about earlier with the Mana community. These are the types of things that are going to start to happen at some of these local races. So I'm actually, I looked at the forecast. It's about 95, 96 degrees down there right now. So different kind of heat training.
Little bit toasty. Oh my goodness. Well, we had some pro racing going on this weekend, and they will be going, as I always say, a little bit faster than us. Why don't you kick us off, Josh? Tell us a little bit about some racing that went down this weekend.
Well, we had the favorite race to pronounce in France, Aix-en-Provence, with the big field of the Norwegians coming to town, with Kristian, Gustav, and Casper lining up with a really pretty deep field. Pierre Lecour, Jonas Schomburg, Matteo Bringer. Those guys were kind of Jonas and Matteo led out a huge group of swimmers, and I would say the race went as planned for most people. I think Gustav was a little further back coming out of the water than he would have liked, and lost that big lead pack, and that really impacted the rest of his race. So unfortunately, we did not get our 1, 2, 3 we were looking at, but
So close.
yeah, but what a really awesome bike course, and beautiful bike course. Minus the fact that the lead moto was completely getting in the way, and there was traffic on this course,
Yeah, there are cars coming
and there were times where the leaders were dodging in between the moto and the cars, and it was just kind of scary. And it's something that we see in Europe all the time, with some of these races and some of the scariness there. But pretty much big group coming into T2, and Kristian was kind of towards the back of that pack and running there with Casper, and Leo Berger. They kind of went off on the run, and Kristian just kind of laid back for a while, and you could see maybe it was the impacts of Texas catching up, and we had talked about this, like, where was he going to be tired coming in to France, and were those first 2 races of the year going to have an impact on him? But no, he was just kind of chilling and waiting to make his move, and had been running with Sam Dickinson for a while, and finally made his move with maybe 5K, 7K left, and it was just a different notch, and he was gone. At that point, it was he and Casper, and Casper couldn't hold on, but he held on enough to only finish about 30 seconds back. So Kristian Blummenfelt with another perfect score in a Pro Series race, and so now he's got back-to-back Texas and Provence, and max points. So we are now looking at the front runner again for the Pro Series. Casper Storns finished in second, Simon Vlaine in third, Sam Dickinson fourth, and Pierre Lecour in fifth, all grabbing some major points in the Pro Series.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like the way Kristian just backs things up is unreal. And it looked like he was sprinting by the final parts of this race. Like once Casper kind of caught up and was hanging out with them, seems like they're just cruising a little bit. And then Kristian just goes off the front, like nobody is touching me. And this kind of makes me disappointed that we didn't get to see this go down in Oceanside. Like if Kristian hadn't gotten that flat in Oceanside, what would we have seen on that run between him and Lionel Sanders? Like that would have been so much fun to watch, because obviously Kristian is in insane form right now. Like
his run is crazy, and remember, his run in Oceanside was nuts too, is what everyone was talking about. And they're like, oh, but he had 15 minutes of a break on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
I know. Oh, it's so crazy to see. Yeah, definitely a great race to watch in there. But yeah, it sucks when you see cars kind of holding up. The athletes at one point, you saw the leader just kind of gesturing to moto, like his car just pulls in and goes off there. And we don't see as many kind of fully closed roads sometimes in these European races, which is unfortunate because we saw even at the World Champs the other year, cars getting in the way of the pro race, and you can see how it's challenging because I think a lot of these are kind of smaller roads with no other options for people to get in and out, but there's definitely some safety concerns there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just, you don't want to see these things impact the races, but it's just the nature of our sport at the current level that it's at. Until these things get full HBO coverage and whatever it may be, it's going to be that way.
Did we
But
see,
yeah,
did we note on why, what happened with Gustav? Seems like,
I don't think he ever had any mechanical or anything like that. It just seemed like he missed that lead pack, and once he missed the lead pack on the bike, they were gone, and they were pushing. Kristian was in a group of about 15 guys, so he missed that, and that train was just kind of drafting off each other for 50 miles. I mean, they were scooting, so the chase pack was never going to catch them, and I think when he came off on the run. He think what he finished what 24th, something like that. So yeah, it was an off day for Gustav, but I still think he's lining it up for the world champs, and for some of these guys like we've heard from Magnus. I don't care about the Pro Series. I won't add other races. I'm just going for Nice.
like the impersonation.
So I think Gustav's in that same boat at this point, right? Like the Pro Series is gone, and let's just do what we need to do and have a big training day. And maybe this was that for him, anyways. And 1, 2, 3 was never in the cards. And when you're coming back from a lack of fitness and injury, then days like today are just go out there and race and transition and go through the motions and get a long run in. So it sounds like that's all it was. For him, I haven't heard anything differently. So on the women's side, we had a little bit more predictable of a race. Lena Meibner led out the swim, and race favorite and hometown hero, or not hometown hero, but French rider Marjolaine Pierré, who had a huge crowd of support for her, friends and family there. She was about a minute and a half, 2 minutes back on the swim, and then by 30K, she had caught the lead pack on the bike. And we saw this in Nice last year. She loves to just take off on the bike and ride those French roads to the front. And she went to the front, and that was it. No one ever caught her again. She ended up saying she was on her own the whole day and had a nice little training run. So Margie took the lead. She even let her hair down on the run, as she loves to do. No clue how she does that in that heat, but she did. And she took it home in a 4:11:57, followed by Lizzie Rayner. Lena Meibner ended up holding on for third. Marta Sanchez in fourth, and Nikki Bartlett with a great run, a 1:17:54. I think probably the top run of the day, and great to see as she's coming back for fifth place and decent amount of Pro Series points.
Yeah, definitely. And it was so cool. Marjolaine was just so strong out there, and you cannot miss her with the hair flowing in the wind and everything. That would drive me absolutely insane, but she rocks that look for sure. It sounds like she's working with Reese Barclay now as her
Yep.
coach. So having a bit of a comeback after a few years of injuries and issues and stuff. And man, that's got to be such a good feeling, making some changes, coming back from injury, and things are clicking like that because she just looks so strong. She knows how to ride those roads, and she
Yeah.
ran well.
She absolutely was in her own on that one, and loved everything about it, and just looked like she was enjoying the day. She did the ride in 2:21:11, and then the next pack was like 2:24s. So she was
She knows how to ride French
three
roads.
minutes clear of everyone else. So pretty epic day. And by the way, Kristian and Casper both ran 107s too. So it's like these half marathons. If you're not running below 109, you're probably not holding on to the lead.
Yeah, and especially like this course wasn't easy. It was flat, but it was just windy, twisty, and one of those courses where you can't
It
quite find
was, yeah, it was a technical run.
Yeah, like it's easy if you're running in a straight line, you can just kind of fall into your groove and go. When it's windy and twisted, like you're accelerating, slowing down, cornering, that's when you're more likely to see a lot of blisters and stuff just from that foot movement in your shoe. But phew, they just blazed through on both
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah, absolutely awesome Pro Series race, and a little bit of a break coming up now. It seems like it's kind of everyone's first half of their season's done, and now everyone's kind of setting up for, and the T100 is going to start to take off. We've only had that one race, so now a lot of people have fit in. A lot of the T100 athletes have fit in some Ironman Pro Series races and some Ironman races. But speaking of Reese Barclay, his Marge's coach, they had a pretty good day on a little island called Lanzarote too, with Lucy taking home the win in her first Ironman of the year and validating her spot for Kona. So
Not
the
only
champ is back.
not only validating, but 20 minutes ahead of second place. So, yeah, Lanzarote, we had Lucy Charles-Barclay take the win, Jeanne Cologne take second, Merle Brunet in third. And then on the men's side, we had Dylan Mannion, Jordi Montrevetre Moya, and Mateus Pedersen coming first, second, and third in there. But yeah, Lucy, when she's on and fit and feeling good, whew, she
And
is.
she had been there training for a couple of weeks, so it's treating it like it was a Kona camp.
That's absolutely unreal. Like she took that easily. So it'll be exciting to see her come back and race in a field of a little bit more competitive field there because it's always hard to judge off of races like that. No disrespect to the athletes on the podium, but it definitely wasn't a stacked field like the one she's going to see coming up at the Ironman World Championships, say. So it's exciting to see her back because she definitely changes things up. And I believe she'll be I think she's in the start list for Alcatraz or T100 in San Francisco.
Yeah, and I think that was, I mean, what a perfect race for her to pick in as her validation too, because she's got the big T100 schedule. She's been injured, coming back again, and had a decent outing in Singapore again. To fit this in a place she loves, I think it was where she did her first pro race as well, or had her first pro win. Lanzarote's home to a lot of people for a good portion of the year, and in terms of training wise, and why not go race? And who cares who shows up? I just got to finish and get my spot. So
Yeah,
pretty
although you
kudos to
gotta
her.
it probably takes the edge off a little bit for San Francisco for the T100 in there doing an Ironman 2 weeks beforehand. So T100 is probably not stoked about that one.
Yeah, she's looking forward to Vancouver.
There we go. That'll be such a fun race to see go down. But speaking of the Ironman Pro Series and everything, let's just do a quick rundown of where the standings are for top five on either side right now. Unsurprisingly, with a near perfect score, he just needs to knock off Oceanside with another race. We got Kristian Blummenfelt in first, Jonas Schomburg in second, Leon Chevalier on third, Casper Storns in fourth, and Gustav Eden in fifth. So we got three Norwegians in the top five here, which, man, I don't see that changing. They're definitely tearing it up with their self-coached group going on there.
Well, you think about Christian's opportunity to get a perfect score is still on the table when you look at it, because he still has Frankfurt. That would be his second full Ironman perfect score potential. Then he would have Nice, and he would have 70.3 worlds.
Yeah. Just has to win all of them and he'll get a perfect score. Easy.
Unbelievable.
Craziness. And then I hear he's doing a W like a
He's jumping into a World Series race.
He's doing this backwards. Ironman 70.3 Olympic. Go the other way.
And just focus. I mean, there's a $200,000 check waiting, and the Olympics are not for 3.5 years. Come on.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, just craziness. On the women's side, for the rankings right now, we got Marta Sanchez in first, Anne Reichman in second, Lisa Perder in third, Chloe Lane in fourth, and Laura Jansen in fifth. But again, I think we're going to see a few chops and changes there, especially with Frankfurt coming up. We got Kat Matthews will be racing, so you assume she will be collecting a Couple more points there. She's only got one score on the board so far with a win at Ironman Texas.
Man, she's got Hamburg's going to be a big race coming up soon too. That's a big Ironman full distance Pro Series race that's next on the table. And you mentioned Lisa Perder. She raced in Aix-en-Provence. We talked about it a lot last week, thinking that, hey, she's got to be the front runner, but she just didn't have the legs, it sounds like, on the day. But she still came home in sixth, I believe, or seventh. So she still was able to grab points.
Yeah, it's a tough turnaround from
Yeah.
Ironman Texas for sure.
Yep.
Not everyone's Kristian Blummenfelt.
No.
Awesome. Well, we also had some WTCS racing going on this weekend as well. And this is kind of a funny year for the WTCS. There's no Olympic ranking points on the board right now, but they still do have the overall series to take the win for. And with that, we're seeing a lot of athletes trying other things. We've talked about it before. Some of the big names, especially in the men's side, are doing other race series and options, but we still did have there's some decent top end talent at these races still. So it keeps it interesting. And we had it go down in Yokohama. And this race, it's really a mixed bag. It's either going to be wet or sunny. It's all over the map. And
We got the worst case weather.
Yeah.
So
They end up having to change the course at the last minute too to take out some cobblestones to make it a little bit safer. And they end up having like 10 laps of 3.7K, I think. So end up being a little bit short and just lots of laps round and round and round in the rain for sure what felt like a long day out there. On the women's side of things, going in, we were all talking about Cassandra Bogran because she had such a dominant performance. And unfortunately, this wouldn't end up being her day at WTCS. We saw her perform really well and just get, like in France, she managed to handle the bike really well in the wet and the tough conditions and stuff. But this race, she just seemed kind of on the back foot the whole time. And she was looking a little tentative around corners. And unfortunately, she did end up having a crash and kind of crashed out of podium contention there. But we ended up seeing a great battle on the women's side. We had a big group to come together. And then we had Jeanne Lehair just take on the race coming out of T2. She just powered to the front of the race and ran strong. And then we also had Lisa Tersch and Beth Potter chasing each other down and battling it out there for the last podium spots. And we ended up with Jeanne Lehair in first, Beth Potter in second, and Lisa Tersch in third. But we saw Jeanne Lehair kind of start to come up through the Super Tri series last year. And now seeing it kind of go on to the Olympic distance has been very, very cool to see.
yeah, she's made a big leap, and I think she is going to be somebody to reckon with throughout the whole series. I think that moved her up into second for the season series as well, and she just seems like she's found that I know how to win button and turn it up, and she did. I mean, she wasn't leading that run early on, but she was able to get to the front and hold off some really big names. I mean, Lisa Tersch has dominated this series for a while now, and Beth Potter is what we know. I mean, Beth is a runner who can outdo you if you leave her in the group on the bike. And then you had the likes of Gwen Jorgensen coming from behind too. It's like it's never safe when Gwen's running down. And kudos to Gwen for running up to fourth in a pretty big field still too. So kind of Gwen on her last legs of her career, still competing at the top of her game in a short course event is pretty neat.
Yeah, she's definitely on this comeback round, and you're seeing her get stronger and stronger each race in there, so it's fun to watch that as well. Yeah, Jeanne Lehair, she only ran 2 seconds slower than Beth Potter, who we know is an insane runner, and like 7 seconds faster than Gwen. So she just like this run was next level for her, and I think that was her first like WTCS podium period. Never mind taking a win in there too.
Yeah, and that moved her up to second. So Lisa Tersch is leading the overall series. Jeanne Lehair is second, and Rosa Maria Tapia Vidal is third in the overall series. So we all know it comes down to the grand final too. So long season still to go.
No, absolutely. And then the men's side of things, they didn't get any better weather out there. It's definitely rainy and made for some interesting riding. So this race, we had a really good battle out there. It was great to see. On the men's side, they had an initial group of 12 that gapped the rest by about 10 seconds with big groups coming together. They did get the gap out for a while, up to about 24 seconds, but then the chasers started to close it. And by the end of lap 7, the two groups had joined up. So they had 23 riders altogether in there, which is a pretty big group. And then by the time they reached T2, it was really, they had 5 athletes just running off out of the front. Hauser, Vlasa, so they had 5 riders run out there. And it's so funny when you watch Matt Hauser, he just looks so unbothered by everything. He's just kind of powering through. He's a big guy compared to the rest of them, and you see everyone else kind of tucking in behind him, trying to run through.
Drafting off of him.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And then the group started to kind of whittle down as they went. And we saw Vlasa kind of push it, trying to go off the front, and Matty Hauser just held on and then made a big push and ran away with it. So we had Matt Hauser in first, Vasco Vlasa in second, and Miguel Hidalgo in third, who was lucky to be pulled up in that second bike group. So it was very cool to see him actually run through the finish strong after having to make up that time on the bike.
Yeah, and Vasco and Hauser both running sub 30s too. So, man, these guys are pushing it. You could tell they probably had a little bit left in the legs because the bike was kind of tentative in the conditions. So they're probably not pushing the power they normally would. And man, Yokohama's just every year there's something with it. It seems like in the weather department, and something on the course is creating havoc. But it was really neat to see these big guys go after it too. I mean, the star power was there, minus Hayden and Alex. So
And that
really
almost
neat.
makes it more fun because, like usually it's you see Hayden and Alex go off the front. Now there's a lot closer racing at the front end because they are a little bit closer in ability.
Yeah, absolutely. And the season series is Hauser, Vasco, Miguel, Batista. Yeah, I mean it's like they all lined right up in this one, but there's only been a couple races. So again, long series, but I think right now Hauser's put himself in a good spot, and I mean he's been around for a long time, and he's been another one of those like super tri guys, and just seems to lead out the swim and have battles there, but get caught, and maybe this is his year to go all the way through to the swim bike run title.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll be curious to see how the rest of the season goes. It's still, we had such a big break between the first race and the second race, but now things are really going to start to kick off a little bit more. But it is a long season. And you can, I think we will see a divide between those who are really more focused on the WTCS series compared to those who aren't.
Yeah, I agree.
With that, we had we had the Challenge Championships also going on, and then we had Chattanooga 70.3. There was so much racing going on. I think maybe we'll touch on some of the highlights with Chattanooga. Did you watch that or kind of follow along with that one, Josh?
Yeah, as soon as I was done my race on Sunday, I immediately opened up the Ironman tracker to check to see what was going on down in Chattanooga, knowing we had a time trial duathlon style start. So every pro just kind of drew numbers randomly, and a lot of the big hitters were up in that like top 10, top 15 numbers drawn, which meant they had like kind of an open road and would probably come together and work together. But you had the likes of Sam Long, like 40th, 44th in the start list.
It's weird to follow the results with that. Like he was like 7 or 8 minutes down kind of thing. So you had to wait.
Yeah, so you had to wait for each lap to see where he ended up, and pretty quickly he made his way to the front, and started to, by the time we got to the run, you could start to see his gap separate, and it's interesting because he's not going to finish first, and he didn't have a big enough gap from when he started to the lead that he created to get ahead of all the guys. So I think the furthest he ever got in the race itself was 4th. Yet he won by over 3 minutes. So they had the tape ready for him, though. They did have the tape ready for him. So I was like, and right behind him, there was actually a really good run battle on the course too. I did see some highlights from some Instagram clips between Jason West and Matt McElroy, two of the best runners in the field, and Jason had started just before Matt McElroy, and Matt had caught him. But on the run course, they were running shoulder to shoulder for a while and really pushing each other. And Jason had kind of bridged ahead of Matt at some point. But when we all got to the finish line, Matt had bridged that gap enough that McElroy finished in second, and Jason West back on the circuit in third place, with two of them ran 108, low 108s. Jason just beating Matt for the fastest run of the day. So again, crazy fast times off of a pretty hard bike without the swim too.
That's not an easy run either. So definitely they were pushing it there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So great day for the boys up front. And interesting enough, Sam Long took his Marbella spot this time. So he literally said he did not show up because he knew it would get Magnus his spot.
Man. And he's just confident enough to know he can show up to another 70.3.
And he's like, now I should have asked for money. Magnus is going to Marbella because Sam Long did not show up for him.
Man, that's crazy.
Right? And so, yeah, Sam showed up. So anyone thinking that they were going to get a slot because Sam wasn't going to take one, sorry.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah.
Craziness.
And it kind of stinks just having that, the duathlon type style start. I think you're starting to hear a lot of pros saying, like, why can't we swim it and then the age groupers be a time trial duathlon? But they've probably got a certain speed on the flow rate side of things because of all the rain, and whenever it rains, the rivers start to flow faster, and it gets a little too dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going fast enough beforehand. Never mind adding that rain, and things that can get into the water with the rain too. So we've definitely seen instances of big rainfall, and some stuff gets into the water, making athletes sick down the line too. So we don't want to see that either. But it's tough to follow the racing when you do have those kind of gaps in the starts and everything. Not as much fun. Well, we didn't have any coverage otherwise. So if you're relying on the tracker, that makes it even tougher. Could you imagine Ironman trying to do coverage, the commentators trying to do coverage of one of these races with the time trial start? Like they struggle at times to get the race coverage when everyone starts at the same time.
So it's interesting because I watched this race, the full distance race that Sam Long won last season to get his slot to Nice, was not covered either, but the finish line cam on YouTube had gone up before the pro men finished. Mm-hmm. So trying to listen to them cover it, like the announcers on the ground at the finish line, was hysterical actually, because they were like, we don't know who's actually in first, and at that point it was Sam Long and Cody Beals battling it out, and like each split would change, and like they had no clue who was actually going to get the tape.
Oh my goodness. Well, on the women's side of things, at Chattanooga 70.3, we had Grace Alexander taking the win. She had a decent gap between Jess Smith in second, and then we had Caroline Olsen about a minute behind that in third place. So it wasn't one of the Pro Series. We didn't see a lot of coverage, but there was definitely still some interesting racing going on there. And as you mentioned, we've got a little bit of a break with the racing with, T100 in San Francisco, I think will be the next big one coming up, which it's looking like it's going to be a solid field out there.
Yeah, so T100 San Francisco and Ironman Hamburg, I think, are the next two big ones that we'll be talking about. Yeah. And wildcard lists so that was one, like, if you haven't checked T100's social media, they're starting to drop all the wild cards that are coming for San Francisco. They even dropped the ones for Vancouver the following week after as well. So you start to see who's out and who's not. On your left has started a injury list, so people can actually see who's on the DL and how long they're out for. So I think that's pretty neat. So thanks to those guys for doing that.
There's definitely a few injuries going on. So it is kind of fun to watch those trackers, just see where everyone's at and if they're going to be coming back for it. To give you an idea for the start list for San Francisco, we'll dive into this a lot more next week. But from the contracted athletes in San Francisco on the women's side, we've got Kate Waugh, Taylor Spivey, Ashley Gentle, Grace Beck, Marta Sanchez, Julie Duran, Jessica Learmonth, Flora Duffy, Lucy Byram, Paula Finley, and Taylor Knibb. And then on the men's side, we've got Martin Van Riel, Yuri Kulin, Antonio Benito Lopez, Sam Long, Mika Newt, Rico Bogan, Eustace Nischlag, Vincent Louis, Nicholas Mann, Yeli Geens, Jason West, Kyle Smith, Morgan Pearson, and Peter Heimrich. And like you said, they've started to announce those wild cards too. And from the contracted athletes, there will definitely be a lot of wild cards in both this race and Vancouver because there's a few empty spots.
Yeah. And they're all pretty filled. And I know people in San Francisco are excited. Like Justin Reale grew up there and he's excited to go. Mark Dubrick's on the San Francisco list. I think Jackson just got one for Vancouver. So Jackson's going to be all amped up to race it on home soil. So it's always neat to see who gets these wild card lists, especially with some of the injuries and the more races in the T100 series and not having the obligation to go to all of them. So it'll be interesting to see.
Well, it was a massive week of racing. Next week will be a little
training.
And training, yes. All around. So next week we'll definitely dive into our usual What the F in social media posts and see what's going on with our training and make some predictions as we head towards T100 in San Francisco and the Ironman Pro Series. But till then, we will see you next week, Josh.
Yes, we'll see you next week. If you're in the Austin area this weekend, come say hi.